Many people ask me if we were Catholic because I grew up on a farm with 12 kids, 6 girls and 6 boys, and a lot of people had big families. Dolly Parton, the beloved queen of country music, is known for her warm smile, endless charm, and unforgettable hits. But behind the glittering image, Dolly has had her fair share of problems, including a long-running feud with a female celebrity. For years, rumors spread about a bitter feud that shook Dolly to her core. Now that she's 78, Dolly Parton finally says how much she really hated the celebrity, but what really happened between them. In this video, we'll find out this tense relationship and look into the emotional problems Dolly hid for decades. Dolly's life before fame. Dolly Rebecca Parton was born on January 19, 1946, in Sevier County, Tennessee, in a small one-room cabin near the Pigeon River in the heart of the Great Smoky Mountains. Dolly was the fourth of 12 children born to Robert Lee Parton, a farmer and construction worker, and Lee Caroline Owens. With such a big family and little money, the Partons had a hard time making ends meet. They lived without power or indoor plumbing. Plumbing relied on the land and Robert Lee's hard work to survive. Music has always been an important part of Dolly's life. From the time she was born, her mother, A. Lee, who had a beautiful singing voice, introduced her to traditional ballads and church hymns that filled their home with the sounds of the Appalachian region. These early musical experiences were the start of something much bigger for Dolly. She began singing in church when she was young, and by the time she was 6, it was clear that she had a natural talent. Dolly started singing with a homemade guitar when she was only 6 years old, to show off her voice and love of music. It wasn't long before her musical career took off. Uncle Bill Owens, who was involved in the local music scene, saw how talented she was and gave her a real guitar when she was only 8 years old. This was a turning point in Dolly's life because it allowed her to start writing her own songs and dream of a career in music. Even though they were having a hard time financially, the Parton family supported Dolly's dreams every step of the way. Dolly's upbringing was full of Appalachian cultural traditions. The stories, folklore, and music she heard as a child had a big impact on her unique musical style. Dolly didn't let her poverty stop her from following her dreams. Instead, she used her problems as inspiration. Dolly was determined to beat Ed and one day make things better for her family. The hard times she went through only made her stronger, and her early exposure to music set the stage for her legendary career. Her story shows that even the worst starts can lead to amazing success, but here's what happened instead. How did a girl with only a dream and a voice win over millions of fans? Let's find out about Dolly Parton's early career. She started her amazing journey into music very young. By 1955, she was already performing on radio and TV shows in East Tennessee with her most famous song. Early performances on the Cass Walker Show helped her build not only her stage presence but also her confidence, which helped her grow as an entertainer. This exposure was key in honing her skills and laying the groundwork for what would become an amazing career. By the time Dolly was a teenager, she was already well known in the local music scene, proving that there was no denying her talent. After graduating from high school in 1964, Dolly made the brave choice to leave her small-town life behind and go straight to Nashville, the center of country music, with the dreams of making it big. Was hard for Dolly at first, as it is for many aspiring artists. It was hard for her to get noticed in the very competitive music business, but her songwriting skills soon caught the attention of Combined Publishing. Soon she was writing songs for other artists. One of her early songs, Put It Off Until Tomorrow, was a hit for Bill Phillips. It earned her and her uncle Bill Owens a prestigious BMI award, which showed how good a songwriter she was. In 1965, Dolly signed with Monument Records, but at first the label tried to market her as a pop artist. Her first pop singles didn't do well, but Monument quickly realized that Dolly's heart and voice belonged in country music, so they released her first country single, Dumb Blonde. 1966, the song got to number 24 on the Billboard Country Music Chart, which was a big turning point in Dolly's career. It showed how strong and independent she was, which struck a chord with country fans and set the collaboration with the Porter Wagoner Show. Dolly Parton's career took a big turn in 1967 when she joined the Porter Wagoner Show. Porter Wagoner, a famous country music star, saw Dolly's immense talent and asked her to be a part of his popular TV show. Dolly was able to connect with a much larger audience thanks to this partnership. Wagoner saw Dolly's potential as both an actress and a songwriter, and with his help, she signed with RCA Victor, which was a big step in her career. Wagoner also promised to produce her music. Her records put her on a solid path to success. Their first single together, The Last Thing on My Mind, came out in October 1967 and quickly shot to the top 10 of the country music charts. It was a hit, solidifying their musical partnership and marking the start of a long and successful career together. Collaboration: there was obvious chemistry between Dolly and Porter, and audiences were captivated by their performances. The success of the duet led to the release of their first album together, Just Between You and Me, in 1968. The album was a commercial triumph, penetrating at number 8 on the Billboard's Top Country Records chart, making Dolly even more of a rising star in the country music world, even though her relationship with Bet was going well. Dolly wanted a bigger career as a solo artist. In 1968, she released her first album as a solo artist, Just Because I'm a Woman, on RCA. The album didn't do as well as her duets with Bet, but it was an important moment in Dolly's career because the title track talked about the unfair treatment women often faced, showing Dolly's. She was brave in tackling social issues through her music and showing a deep emotional connection with her listeners. In 1969, after 7 years on the Porter Wagoner Show, Dolly made a big and important choice. She quit to focus on her solo career. This was a huge statement of independence because it showed she wanted to break away from Wagoner's shadow and find her own identity. Dolly was determined to succeed on her own terms, but what would her first brave move be after leaving to go her own way? Could she actually succeed on her own? Let's take a closer look at Dolly's solo songs that made history. When Dolly Parton went out on her own, she marked the occasion by releasing Just Because I'm a Woman in 1968. This song wasn't just an expression of Dolly's self-confidence, paved the way for her to become one of the most beloved and powerful voices in country music. As she went solo, her songwriting continued to touch hearts, and her unique style began to take shape. One of her most famous hits, Jolene, came out in 1973. People were immediately drawn in by the haunting melody and vivid storytelling, which made it an instant classic. Jolene went to the top of the country charts, solidifying Dolly's reputation as a master storyteller with a voice that could move mountains. In 1974, Dolly wrote and recorded I Will Always Love You, a heartfelt love song. Farewell to Porter Wagoner. The song was a bittersweet declaration of love and independence that showed how complicated their professional relationship was. It quickly rose to the top of the country charts and became a worldwide hit when Whitney Houston covered it in 1992. This was a big year for Dolly as she became a superstar with hits like Love Is Like a Butterfly and The Bargain Store. These songs cemented her position as a leading figure in the world of country music, and by the mid-1970s, she was a true country music icon. Wasn't happy with that. So in 1976, she started to explore new musical horizons in order to reach a wider audience. This was the time of her career when she made the brave decision to try pop music, which was a big step forward for a country artist at the time. Her 1977 album Here You Come Again was a big milestone, and the title track became a huge hit, reaching number 3 on the. It topped the pop charts and the country album charts, showing how versatile Dolly was and how well she could connect with a wide range of listeners by blending pop and country in a way that worked for all. Dolly has always been known for pushing the limits, but what happened when she set her sights on something bigger than music? Let's take a look. During this exciting time in Dolly Parton's career, she became well known not only in country music but also on TV. Her natural charm, quick wit, and undeniable charisma made her a popular guest on talk shows and variety shows across the country. In 1976, Dolly took things a step further by starting her own variety show called Dolly, which ran for a year and wasn't just about music. It let her show off her many talents, winning the hearts of many viewers. Dolly gained even more fans and became more famous outside of country music. The industry couldn't help but notice her growing influence. Her hard work and talent were rewarded with many awards, including several prestigious Country Music Association CMA honors. In 1978, she reached a new milestone when she was named the CMA's Entertainer of the Year, which was a true testament to her. She made amazing contributions to country music during this time in her career, which was marked by both commercial and critical acclaim. She continued to push the limits of creativity and amaze everyone with it. As the 1980s began, Dolly made another brave career move that would take her to even greater heights. She started acting in the movie 9 to 5. With stars like Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin, the movie was a huge hit, and Dolly's performance was praised for its warmth and comedic timing. She wasn't just another face in the ensemble, her natural charm translated perfectly to the screen. But Dolly didn't just bring acting to the movie, she also wrote the theme song, 9 to 5, which quickly became one of her biggest hits, topping both the country charts and the Billboard Hot 100. Quickly became an anthem for working women all over the world. Its catchy tune and empowering lyrics made it a timeless classic and showed how well Dolly could connect with people from all walks of life. Riding the wave of her success, Dolly continued to look for more film roles. In 1982, she starred in the musical comedy The Best Little Whore in Texas, which gave her a chance to show off her acting and singing skills. The song Hard Candy Christmas was another hit for Dolly. Her smooth transition between acting and music made her a versatile entertainer. During this time, Dolly never slowed down on the music front either. In 1981, she released the album N to 5 and Odd Jobs, which was a commercial success. The album mixed country, pop, and rock, showing how versatile she was. She was willing to try out different types of music, which led to a string of hit albums and singles that made her one of the most beloved figures in the entertainment industry. Beyond Dolly Parton's continued success, in 1983, she released the famous duet Islands in the Stream with Kenny Rogers. The song quickly became a single and became a hit. Soared to the top of both the country and pop charts, proving Dolly's universal appeal and ability to effortlessly switch between genres. The song's huge success cemented her position as a versatile artist who could easily move between musical styles. In 1984, Dolly released The Great Pretender, an album of covers of classic 1950s and 1960s songs that showed off her unique style. Dolly recorded new versions of old favorites, adding her own style and making them feel fresh. The next year, she reunited with Kenny Rogers for another hit duet, Real Love. However, it was her work with country music legends Emmylou Harris and Linda Ronstadt on the 1987 album Trio that really made it big. The album really stood out. It went platinum and won a Grammy Award. It was praised for the amazing harmony and chemistry between the three of them. It became a key moment in country music history. As the 1980s came to a close, Dolly returned to her. Dolly's country roots came out in her album White Limousine in 1989. Both reviewers and fans loved it, solidifying her position as a music industry powerhouse. Around the same time, she opened Dollywood, a theme park in Tennessee that celebrated Appalachian culture and quickly became a hit. Dolly's hands-on role in the park's operations and her frequent appearances made it clear that she was more than just a country music star. She was also a smart businesswoman with a strong connection to her heritage. In 1991, Dolly made her first appearance at the park. Released the album Eagle When She Flies, which included the hit song Rocking Years, which she sang with Ricky Van Shelton. From 1987 to 1988, she had a TV variety show called Dolly, which showed off her many skills and ability to entertain people with music and comedy. The early 1990s were a time of great change. It was a busy time for Dolly. In 1993, she released the album Slow Dancing with the Moon, which included collaborations with artists like Mary Chapman Carpenter and Tanya Tucker. The album received positive reviews, showing how good Dolly was at working with others and how her influence in the music business was growing. In 1994, she released Heart Songs Live From Home, a live album recording a performance at Dollywood. Showed off Dolly's live appeal and her ability to connect with audiences through her performances. The next year, she returned to traditional country music with her album Something Special. In 1996, she released Treasures, an acoustic album of her favorite cover songs. Both albums reminded fans of Dolly's deep roots in country music and her love for the genre. In 1999, Dolly released her last album, celebrated her bluegrass roots when the album The Grass is Blue came out. The album was a critical success and won the Album of the Year award from the International Bluegrass Music Association. This was a big turning point in Dolly's career as she returned to the Appalachian music she had always loved and gained new fans in the process. Dolly continued to explore bluegrass on her 2001 album Little Sparrow, which mixed traditional and modern styles. Critics praised the authenticity of the music and Dolly's powerful vocals. In 2002, she released Halos and Horns, an album that mixed genres with bluegrass, country, and other influences. One of the standout tracks was her bluegrass version of. In 2003, Dolly released the album For God and Country, which showed how daring her musical spirit was. Around this time, her contributions to songwriting were recognized when she was inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame. This honor cemented her legacy as one of the most important people in music. The early 2000s were a big year for Dolly's career. Country, a patriotic album that mixed classic American songs with her own compositions, showed how deeply connected she was to her roots and how much she loved her country. Her many TV appearances kept her in the public eye and let her introduce her music to new audiences through talk shows and specials. Dolly's stories, humor, and life philosophy made her seem like a beloved and relatable star. As the mid-2000s approached, Dolly continued to broaden her horizons. In 2006, she released Those Were the Days, an album of covers from the 1960s and in the 1970s, Dolly showed her love for the music of the time by putting her own unique spin on classic hits and adding her own style to each one. During this time, Dolly's business sense was clear as Dollywood continued to grow and become a popular tourist destination. Her frequent appearances at her hands-on approach to running the park made her even more popular with fans and showed how entrepreneurial she was. In 2008, Dolly released Backwoods Barbie, her first country album in almost 10 years. The album, which had both new songs and covers, debuted at number 2 on the Billboard Top Country Albums chart. Fans and critics alike praised Dolly's mix of traditional country music with her own unique style, showing that she was still a major force in the music industry. In 2009, Dolly made her Broadway debut with 9 to 5, a musical based on the 1980 movie in which she played the lead role. She wrote all of the music and lyrics for the show and was nominated for several Tony Awards, including one for Best Original Score. She showed off her skills as a songwriter and composer, which increased her influence in the entertainment industry. During this time, Dolly went on a lot of tours, playing to packed houses all over the world. Her concerts were a mix of old favorites and new songs, and they were filled with warmth and humor, letting her connect with her fans on a personal level by telling stories from her life and career. In addition to her music, Dolly stayed committed to charity work, focusing on things like literacy and disaster relief. She brought her Imagination Library program, which gives free books to kids from birth to age 5, to more countries outside of the U.S. Her dedication to education and love of reading were clear in her efforts to promote literacy around the world. Dolly showed her strong dedication to making the world a better place through her charitable work by helping communities affected by natural disasters and donating to disaster relief. In 2011, she released the album Better Day, which was a mix of traditional and modern country sounds. The album got mixed reviews but praised her strong vocals and reached number 51 on the Billboard 200 chart and number 9 on the UK Albums chart, making it her highest chart position in the UK. At the time, in 2014, Dolly released the album Blue Smoke, which was a tribute to her musical roots with a mix of bluegrass, country, and gospel styles. The album debuted at number 6 on the Billboard 200 and went on to top the Top Country Albums chart. The Blue Smoke World Tour that went along with the album was a great success. Dolly's energetic performances and heartfelt stories helped her become a big star. In 2016, she released the album Pure and Simple, which was made up of love songs and showed off her vocal and songwriting skills. It debuted at number 11 on the Billboard 200 and went straight to the top of the Country Albums chart. Dolly's Pure and Simple Tour, which was her biggest North American tour in over 25 years, brought people back together. At this time, Dolly also made progress in TV and movies. She released 2 successful holiday movies, Dolly Parton's Christmas of Many Colors, Circle of Love, and Cod of Many Colors, which were based on her childhood and showed how good she was at telling stories. Dolly released her 3rd Christmas album, Holly Dolly Christmas, in 2020. It included collaborations with artists like Michael Bublé and Willie Nelson. The album debuted at number 16 on the Billboard 200 and at the top of the Country Albums chart, showing that she is still popular and versatile. In 2021, Dolly won an Emmy for her Christmas special, Dolly Parton's Christmas on the Square, which added to her popularity. She also announced that she would be working with author James Patterson on the book Run, Rose, Run, which would have a soundtrack released in 2021-22. In 2022, literature and music came together in a new way. Dolly's influence on the music world was recognized when she was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Her rock credentials were further solidified when her album Rockstar came out in 2023. The ambitious mix of rock and country on the album, which featured collaborations with legends like Paul McCartney and Stevie Nicks, won praise and showed Dolly's ability to change and adapt. In 2023, Dolly launched Vinyl Me Parton, a subscription service with Vinyl Me Please that reissued classic albums from her catalog on vinyl. This project included landmark albums like Jolene and 905 and Dolly Parton loved working odd jobs because they let new generations hear her music in its original form and emphasized her lasting legacy in the music industry. But who did Dolly Parton finally say she really didn't like? Watch to find out about the ill-fated trio. In the mid-1970s, three of the most talented women in music, Dolly Parton, Linda Ornate, and Emmylou Harris, started thinking about working together. Each was already a star in her own right. Dolly was known for her heartfelt country songs. Linda had a reputation for mastering a lot of different musical styles, and Emmylou was known for combining traditional country with modern influences. The idea of them working together promised something legendary, and fans couldn't wait to hear it. In 1987, their long-awaited album Trio came out, and it lived up to the hype. The songs lived up to all the hype. The harmonies were stunning, and the chemistry between the three women was magical. Their voices together made a sound that was unlike anything else, and the record was an instant hit. Fans adored it, and the music world took notice. Trio went on to win. It won a lot of awards and cemented its place in country music history, but behind the scenes, things were not as peaceful as they seemed. Dolly and Linda had very different ideas about how to make music. Dolly liked to work quickly and capture the raw emotion of the moment, while Linda was a perfectionist and would spend hours or even days re-recording. If Dolly wanted to make sure every note was perfect, she would follow the flow and let her feelings guide the recording process. This difference in style caused a lot of frustration, and even though Emu tried to calm things down, it was hard to ignore the growing tension. Despite these problems, the trio finished the album, but it was becoming clear that their personal relationships were under more stress. Working together became harder and harder, and Dolly and Linda's creative differences made it seem unlikely that they would work together again. Even though they had made great music, it had come at a personal cost. As plans for a second album began to take shape, the tension grew. Dolly and Linda's different work styles made things even more difficult. Linda's meticulous attention to detail clashed with Dolly's desire to keep things spontaneous and emotionally raw. Emu had to try to mediate between the two again, but it was getting harder to handle. Dolly later said in interviews that working with Linda was one of the hardest things she had ever done. She talked about how Linda's slow, perfection-driven process often made her angry. Linda would spend hours and hours perfecting just one track, but Dolly was eager to move on because she thought that too much polishing could take away from the emotion in the music. Dolly once said that Linda's slow pace made her angry, even though she tried to laugh it off in interviews. Deeper feelings of frustration, but the problems between them went beyond music and were personal. Dolly didn't feel like she belonged in Linda's world. Linda often hosted parties with famous musicians and actors, and even though Dolly was invited, she often felt like an outsider because she grew up in a small town. Tennessee. Dolly wasn't used to the high-class social circles Linda moved into. She would joke about being a fish out of water at these parties, but the truth was that it hurt her. Over time, the feeling of not fitting in hurt her. Dolly's longtime guitarist Don Roth said that Dolly wasn't uncomfortable because she was proud or cocky. She felt like she didn't belong and was afraid she couldn't connect with Linda's social circle. This gap only grew over time, despite the success of Trio, putting more emotional strain on Dolly. How would she handle the ongoing creative process? Differences in personal discomfort? Would she keep going for the sake of the music, or would the tension drive the trio apart? The dark side of partnership. As soon as the trio started planning their second album, it was clear that things were going badly. Schedule conflicts, personality clashes, and different priorities made it nearly impossible for them to get back to the harmony they had before. While Emmylou Harris stayed calm and steady, Dolly Parton and Linda Ornate's relationship got worse until it couldn't be fixed. What began as a promising collaboration turned into a source of frustration and regret for everyone involved. It took years for their second album, Trio 2, to finally come out in 1999. By that time, the music industry had already changed a lot. The album was well received by both fans and critics, but the process took a heavy toll on Dolly Parton. Balancing her successful solo career with the demands of the trio left her emotionally and physically drained. Dolly has since talked about the emotional effects of that time, saying how deeply it affected her, and how for a while she felt intense anger not just toward Linda, but about the whole thing. The project that used to make her happy and excited had turned into something that made her feel trapped. It wasn't about the music anymore, it was about being stuck in a collaboration that had lost its spark. Dolly Parton and Linda Ronstadt are both perfectionists and free spirits. Ron and Linda's different ways of approaching music events caused creative tensions that felt very personal. Linda's unwavering desire for perfection made Dolly feel like her instincts and ideas weren't being valued. Dolly started to wonder if her input even mattered in the trio or if she was just being included as a figurehead in a project that could easily move forward without her contributions. The more Linda complained, the less Dolly believed that her input mattered. Pushed for everything to be perfect, the more Dolly pulled away, feeling the need to protect her artistic freedom. From Linda's point of view, Dolly's meticulousness was too much, and what Linda saw as a way to take their work to new heights, Dolly saw as stifling pressure that threatened her creativity. While Dolly felt left out, Linda was trying, in her own way, to keep her involved in the Linda's drive for excellence wasn't meant to push Dolly aside, it was meant to make the best music possible, no matter what. Luckily, this drive only made things worse between them. They both respected each other's talent, but their ways of working couldn't have been more different. Linda's slow process made things more difficult for Dolly. The attention to detail annoyed Dolly, who liked recording quickly and on the spot. Their creative clash reached a peak when Linda and E.L. Harris suggested they record a few tracks without Dolly, and that she only be present for a few songs. This suggestion felt like a betrayal to Dolly, who had seen the three of them as equal partners and thought that stepping back from any song wasn't fair. As an insult to her art, and as a founding member of the group, this disagreement was a turning point for Dolly. She realized that the collaboration, which had been so exciting for her before, had lost its magic. She started to emotionally distance herself from the project because she felt hurt and left out. The differences in their creative visions almost tore the group apart, but they managed to make an iconic work. Trio 2 was finally released in 1999 after many delays and a lot of stress. The album was a success, getting a Grammy nomination and showing that the musical chemistry between Dolly, Linda, and MEL was still captivating. However, for Dolly, the success came at a cost. The recording process had been so stressful, emotionally draining, that the victory felt hollow. She couldn't fully enjoy the success because of how hard the project had been on her. In interviews after the album came out, Dolly talked openly about how hard it had been to make Trio 2 come to life. She admitted that it had been much harder to finish than she had thought. She was proud of their first album, but the emotional toll it took left her worn out. She said that every note felt like a battle, and by the end she wondered if she ever wanted to go through something like that again. Dolly later wrote an autobiography in which she talked about her part in the conflict. She admitted that her own stubbornness had led to the delays in their plans. Dolly realized that she had been a big part of the problem and felt bad that her actions had made things harder for everyone. The experience made her more wary of working with others in the future. She chose to focus on her solo work, where she had full creative control, and she came out of the experience smarter and more determined to go her own way, even though Trio 2 was a success. The emotional scars from the ordeal lingered, and Dolly's apology to Linda and Emu brought closure. But the question remained. Could she ever truly let go of the grudges she had carried throughout the project and the weight of her guilt? Dolly Parton eventually apologized to Linda Ronad and Emmylou Harris for the problems that came up while they were working together. She was honest and said she regretted how things had turned out. Linda, on the other hand, was slow to accept her apology. Respond eventually accepted Dolly's sincere apology. Emu, who was known as the peacemaker in the group, was quick to forgive them. Ed's forgiveness took a huge load off Dolly's shoulders, letting her. Dolly finally let go of the guilt that had been bothering her for years. She could now look back on the time she spent working with Linda without feeling bad about it. What do you think about the problems that made Dolly dislike Linda? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next video.